Everybody wants to be happy. What exactly does that mean? And how do we get there? Let's consider. Hello, philosophers. I'm Chico. Welcome to the Philosopher Show, where we consider the greatest questions of human history. Today we're starting a series on happiness. I think it's going to be interesting for everybody involved because it's going to hit definitely the intellectual side and also the existential side, something that we all really want. Interestingly enough, today is Cinco de Mayo, so speaking of happiness, if you hear some extra happy people out there, San Clemente is celebrating a little hard, as typical, as per usual. Also, I have started a podcast, so check it out, please. I've already done a few podcasts, but the most recent one is can we be wrong about whether we're happy or not? Can we given whatever happiness is, can we think that we're happy but not actually be happy? And also, don't forget to check the blog. I've got some excellent material up there. Very soon I'm going to put out a blog post on does happiness ruin our chances of success? So check those out, please. Also, just I don't know if you guys can see, but just a quick plug. If you're ever in Dominican Republic, I told you guys I was going on that trip, that mission trip. It was awesome, really cool. We worked with Niños de la Luz orphanage. And speaking of happy, man, the Dominican people are awesome people. It's just everybody seems to be happy, you know. This orphanage was a really, really cool place. And I got this shirt from this coffee and waffle shop that they started. The people that run the show started. They run the orphanage started called Vagabundo. So if you're in Dominican Republic, on the north side of the island, check out Vagamundo. All the proceeds go to the orphans, and it's a really cool place. Not only that, but when they grow up, some of them actually work there, either for a period of time or for longer. It's just an awesome mission. You know, I loved it. The food is outstanding. It's the #1 place to eat in Cabarete, and so just want to give a quick plug because I think they're doing such great work. Anyway. Our question today is, what exactly is happiness? Again, it seems like we all want happiness, and for a few reasons. One, Aristotle, famous philosopher, once pointed this out. Like, it seems like that is the ultimate goal of all of our choices. You know, if I were to ask you, hey, why are you watching this YouTube channel? You might say, well, because philosophy strengthens the mind. You know, it sharpens my reasoning skills. And I might say, well, why do you want to sharpen your reasoning skills? Because it's going to help me in school. Well, why do you want to go to school? I want to get a better job. Why do you want to get a better job? I want a house and money for family or something like that, you know? Why do you want a family? I think it's going to make me happy. And then when I say, why do you want to be happy? It seems like the questioning ends. You know, it seems like you're going to say, do you not know what happiness means? I don't know. I want to be happy because I want to be happy, right? It seems like then it's the ultimate goal of all, or at least most of our decisions, or at least the big decisions. Also, in the United States here, we take that as a very serious thing. The beginning of our most cherished document says life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, right? Thomas Jefferson put in that last one. Those three criteria are actually from John Locke, and John Locke said life, liberty, property. So Jefferson kind of expanded on that and said, in general, as humans, we should have the right to do those three things to pursue our happiness. So we take it as almost like one of the basic things, you know, amongst living, right, and being free. Trying to get that happiness. But the thing is, we disagree about what will get you there, right? We have different ideas of how happiness is attained. And oftentimes I think when you do that, one of the reasons is because you're not sure exactly what the destination is in the first place, right? I mean, if we're trying to talk about how to get to Paris, and you think Paris, France, I think Paris, California, we're going to have wildly different directions, you know? I don't know why you'd go to Paris, California. No offense, Parisians of California, but I don't know, man. I've been through there, and yeah, it's not the best place for crepes. All right, the thing is that we use this word happiness in a lot of different ways, or at least possibly we do. It seems like we disagree on how we use it. And one way we could look at this debate is by saying, okay, let's figure out what exactly happiness really is, and the rest of these imposters, you're just wrong. We could do it that way. What I'd prefer to do is to figure out exactly what all the different usages are, and then evaluate each one. Not to say, is this the happiness thing? You know, is this that one thing that we're that is correct, or just as I do think that, you know, some of them are going to be wrong. Probably some of them will not reflect reality. But I don't think, you know, we need to worry too much about this, you know, sacred word happiness, and which one of these different ideas wins that title. I think more we say, you know, there are several variations on this word happiness. Let's figure out what all of them are, and then a more interesting question to me is, which ones should we pursue? So I think that's what I'm really going to be talking about today. What are some of the ideas that we use this word happiness to describe, and which ones are important for us to look at? And in that case, and this is like a philosophical strategy, you know, that I think is very useful. The first one, the one that we'll talk about today, I think the best way to put it is a phrase that we use, that when you want to say somebody's happy, you might say he's happier than a pig in poop, right? This is Rated G, right? Rated G YouTube channel, so you can use your imagination to decide what exactly somebody says when they're saying that a pig is that happy. But think about that. Happier than a pig in poo-poo. And number twos. What is this phrase getting at? And I think a good option here, something that probably you mean by that, is something like the idea of pleasure, right? Pigs enjoy, they have a feeling of pleasure when they are in deuces, right? I don't know what exactly it is about that, but they seem to, right? And when we say somebody is experiencing pleasure, we might be saying that that's what makes them happy, right? If you've ever heard of alcohol referred to as happy juice, right? You're using it in that way. You're using it to say like it induces some kind of pleasure. So the optimal theory here is hedonism. Hedonism is the idea that your life has some kind of amount of pleasure over the amount of pain that you have. Probably not like a 50-50 split either, because a 50-50 split would suck too, you know, but probably there's some kind of ratio there. And if you're above that, then you are, we would consider you happy. And if you're below that, not. One question then is this, you know, whether or not we should call that actually happiness? Is that something that we should pursue? Should we pursue just feelings of pleasure? Now, obviously, hedonists aren't going to say, like, you know, just run around feeling base level pleasures and deny any kind of you know, learning or anything like that. Hedonists are philosophers, right? So they clearly do worry about things like reading books. Their point more is it all reduces to pleasure. It's all a kind of pleasure, right? And if that's the case, if we're just we're looking at pleasure in general, including stuff like reading, should we be aiming at maximizing our pleasure, you know, in whatever stance? Some philosophers would say, well, there are better pleasures than other, but to be honest, like if you're a hedonist, you don't get to say that, and here's why. I don't mean to be like offensive when I said that sounded like pretty harsh. Uh, I mean, like I don't think it makes sense to say that there are better or worse. The moment you say there's better pleasures, you're no longer adjudicating between things as just pleasures in general. You have some other criterion that you are going with, and so what is actually going to make you happy is no longer pleasure. It's whatever that thing is that makes the pleasure better than other pleasures, right? That's kind of hard to explain, I guess. But if you're not a hedonist, you don't really need to worry about it. Just basically, what we're looking at the world is, should we maximize our pleasure? And is that what we should aim at? And I don't think it is. And I have two reasons why. Number one, imagine human beings, we could make ourselves into just pleasure buckets, right? Just things that just brought in pleasure. Let's say let's say that technology has been developed that we could just plug humans in as a baby into some pleasure machine. They would never ever experience anything. They would just experience pleasure. They would never experience any pain. And for then 80 years, they would just be receiving pleasure. Is that something we would want? Probably not, right? You'd probably actually want the pain. And you might say, well, that's only because some pains lead to greater pleasures or something like that. But then again, if with this pleasure machine, we could imagine it being just like an intense pleasure machine. You're just getting pumped full of pleasure all the time. And it seems like that would be something that's, disagreeable. It would see, I don't know, I wouldn't say that is what I mean by happiness typically, or at least not the happiness that I'd want. And I definitely would say that that's not something we should aim at. But again, remember, the debate here, in my strategy that I'm going with, is not, is this true happiness? My strategy is more like, okay, that's how you're using the word. That's not something I'm going to pursue, right? That's not something that seems like is worthy of being pursued as human beings. Also, a reason we might not want to pursue this kind of happiness is because oftentimes people are glad that they suffered. They're glad that they went through pain. For example, I remember one thing that I really enjoyed afterwards was Hell Week in football. I don't think you're allowed to do that anymore. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's been a few years, right? And but in Hell Week, it was actually 2 weeks where we would just get demolished physically. The coaches made us do all kinds of crazy stuff. It was all day long. We had 2 hours for lunch, but we were always so exhausted. You just like lay there and try to recuperate. And I remember when they would blow that whistle for afternoon practice to start. It was brutal. You were trying to just motivate yourself. You watch the clock and like, oh, it's only 5 minutes left. Oh, 4 minutes. It was crazy. And there was nothing pleasurable about that whole experience. But I was really glad I went through it, because afterwards I felt like I had accomplished something great. I felt like having gone through that suffering, having survived that suffering, I earned something, right? I earned my spot on the team. I earned a bit of courage, stuff like that. So I think suffering, even pain, could have some good things about it. So I don't think we should look for just straight pleasure. And you might say, well, what about if we had like just the right amount of pleasure, right? The perfect ratio. Would that be happiness? Possibly. I think you'd still have the problem with the pleasure machine, though. If we had the pleasure machine and you got that, you dial in just the right amount of pain with just the right amount of pleasure, and you took everything else away and said, look, there you go. That's what all this stuff is for. Aren't you happy? I would say probably I wouldn't want that, right? You might say pleasure plus something else then is happiness. Pleasure plus experiences. Maybe that's what happiness is. So we're still talking pleasure. True, but that would admit that pleasure is not just happiness, right? That pleasure is something else. This also means that pleasure alone isn't the happiness that we should pursue, that there are other things that we should pursue. You can even, a bizarre way to look at this is imagine you had like a year to live, and you were trying to think of what to do with that year, and a friend of yours said, hey, you know what you should do? You should get hooked on crystal meth and just, all the time. Let's use all your money and buy up all the crystal meth you can, and that way, like, every time you start to come down, you could just whoop, get yourself back up. So you won't feel any pain. You'll only feel lots of pleasure. Oftentimes, I think in that last year of life, you don't want that kind of a thing, right? I mean, you do definitely want to ameliorate the suffering, right? You don't want to just I'm going to sit here and I'm going to take it, right? But at the same time, there is part of that last year of life that you'd probably want to spend considering things, philosophizing even, spend with family, not just because they bring you pleasure, but for some deeper reasons. So yeah, I think that hedonism is that a happiness to pursue? I would say probably yes and no. I mean, definitely it's the case that we want pleasure, right? It's not that pleasure is something that we're just going to totally eschew, but at the same time, I don't think it's the kind of goal that would be like an ultimate goal, right? That we have our sights set on. It might even be something that accompanies other kinds of happiness. Maybe that's why we want pleasure. So that is all on hedonism, and next time we're going to talk about another theory called emotional state theory and see what we think. Again, I think the best philosophy happens in dialogue, so please let me know what you think. Also, let me know what do you think? What makes you happy? And do you think thinking about that thing that you say makes you happy, does that reveal something about what happiness is in your mind? Like what is that kind of goal for happiness for you? And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And please share with anybody who's interested in philosophy or just deep thoughts or happiness in general. And that will help me out a lot to get the word out there. And that's all I got for today. Adios.